Hi, and welcome to my presentation on Psychoeducation CBT group for graduate students. This group is one I modified from a program I developed in my research class for graduate students with ADHD, as some of you will notice. Some of the feedback I received when I presented on it was that it may also benefit students without ADHD. Thankfully, Dr. Aguilera is allowing me to continue developing it through this assignment. So first we'll go over why I believe there's a need for this group, and then the information about the group, as well as potential issues and ethical considerations, and other possibilities for the group. Need for this group, when I studied in my previous class, I learned that mental health challenges are actually really common among graduate students. A recent survey, I believe that was conducted in 2018, of 2,279 graduate students from across the nation revealed that 30 to 40% experience clinically significant levels of anxiety and depression. And these are both known risk factors for suicide, which is reported as the second leading cause of death for students aged 25 to 34. So right in that master's age bracket typically. Time management and lack of support were listed as key factors in increased anxiety and depressive symptoms. Studies show how structures and support that help during undergraduate degrees weren't as available due to finances and or distance. Available programs that at college levels typically either teach skills or address mental health components, where a two-pronged skill-based mental health approach is actually needed to address these kind of deficits. Counselor-led psychoeducational groups are a cost-effective way to provide effective support. Groups help foster community involvement and support. Currently, some people are saying that there is a mental health crisis among college students. It's just showing that mental health symptoms like anxiety, depression, stress-related disorders, and even students with ADHD are fast growing, especially in graduate schools, and colleges are currently unable to keep up with that increased need to provide the supports that include both the mental health component and the skill-based. Most just provide skill-based programs that don't really address the cognitive deficits associated with the common mental health disorders. Skill-based programs also haven't shown much efficacy, especially in carryover skills after service has ended. Counselor-led groups are a cost-effective way for campuses to address this increased need, along with teaching that skill-building element. This is a good way to provide those even among counselor shortages, because 9 clients at one time is more cost-effective than 1 client at a time. To start the group, could advertise in school media and on-campus notifications, email walls and halls, also through word of mouth from advisors, student services, etc. A specified audience would be graduate students who are in their second semester or later. That way, we know they're not just going to leave in the middle of the semester. Hopefully they want to stay in school, at least less likely. These students would be struggling with academic performance and or workload management, due at least in part to cognitive deficits associated with ADHD, anxiety, depressive, and or trauma, stress-related disorders. Hopefully in better wording that would actually attract members. So the goals for the group would be to increase self-awareness, normalize difficulties, build efficacy, and foster support and community. Members would learn the connection between symptoms attributed to mental health disorders and school performance, and hopefully learn some grace for self and others there. Strategies for managing symptoms, and as well as strategies for problem solving and developing personal buy-in and remaining engaged. Organization skills and useful tools, as well as how to locate available and effective supports. A theoretical basis for the curriculum I developed is psychoeducational in nature, utilizing CBT principles. It was largely borrowed from an Access study that was a program developed for graduate college students with ADHD and other executive processing dysfunction. And it has been changed to include process group and such, as you will see. This was chosen because it was well suited for graduate students within this demographic. Psychoeducational groups combining cognitive behavior approaches offer great promise, according to Corey, for those whose goal attainment is hindered by a lack of organization, seemingly unsustainable effort, and thought behavior management. These groups are useful for increasing awareness around specified issues and learning self-management skills to better cope with them. So it's actually really perfect for this demographic. CBT groups with skills training in general have been shown to significantly improve time management, stress management, motivation, and self-efficacy while reducing symptoms of anxiety and depression. This was in undergraduate students with ADHD. Some students maintain treatment gains recorded at 6 and 12 months. So it stopped measuring at 12 months, so we don't really know how long those treatment gains lasted. The structure of the group, during enrollment, it would be really important for leaders to discuss pertinent information about group process and the approaches used. With CBT, you really want things to be open and people to be aware of the process. And so them knowing what approaches and techniques will be used will be really important, as well as what is expected. Potential members would fill out an initial demographic survey, a behavioral assessment, and a symptom severity measure. And then the leaders would take that information and assess potential applicants and screen and select members as appropriate, especially screening for personal buy-in, motivation. It would be important that for people in this group to come wanting to work. As I said, they're active participants. Ideally, this would be a closed group of 3 to 9 members, and it would span 2 semesters. So the first semester would consist of 8 weekly 2-hour-long meetings spread over the semester, likely excluding the last 3 weeks, to account for our finals. It would combine a structured CBT-based curriculum with group process. So this setup with psychoeducation, behavior strategies, and cognitive reframing was used largely from the Access study that's referenced in my notes. And as you can see here, we have 8 sessions, and each session is broken down by day. And the sessions would begin by giving each member a handout on what we're going over for the day, and then we would do a group verbal ORS and a brief check-in on member goals. Next, we would get into psychoeducation on the topic for the day, followed by associated behavior strategies on the topic that we're working through. And we'll give a 10-minute break in the middle. This, of course, can be discussed with group members and given as incentive to either end early or have a break in the middle. It can be split, really. It's a good way to give them an option. Next, after break, we'll get into the cognitive reframing topic, followed by a group process on the day's topic as a whole. Group process being a very important function of this, that's why it's 40 minutes. Then each session would end with a group SRS and an individual homework commitment. The second semester would consist of 4 bi-weekly 1-hour-long meetings. This is just a process group for group members to process their experience using and not using the techniques they learned the previous semester, and also just to continue with that community. Issues I anticipate during the initial stage could be low enrollment. Graduate students are already super overwhelmed. Obviously, that's why the anxiety, depression. Lack of member participation or involvement during the group could also be a hindrance. Possible fix is to open enrollment to more than one school, various degree programs, and then, of course, as with any group, just consistently affirm the need to be an active participant and hold members accountable to that. In the working stage, possible issues could be unpredictable attendance and or high dropout rate, especially mid-semester, when they kind of realize their workload and they're like, oh my gosh, there's this extra 2-hour-a-week thing, and it could feel really overwhelming. To get around this, you can discuss expectations and continually discuss expectations for attendance, and develop group rules and norms for processing and handling repeated absences and dropout, and develop group rules for how to handle that. Potential issues for the final stage could be a lack of attendance to the process group, or even the process group going way off focus with decreased structure. It's good to know that even if it appears to go way off focus, that it's still not wasted time. One of the main goals, as I said, of this process group especially is to foster community and support, as that was one of the main factors for anxiety and depressive symptoms. And so just even continuing with that, we're already meeting that goal. Appropriate techniques for this type of group would be to involve members in a collaborative teaching and learning process. As a leader of a CBT type group, you are coming in as in kind of a teacher position, but it's a teacher position that really leans on collaboration from members, so getting them involved in that process. Modeling and demonstrating the principles being taught. This is also really important, so like practice what you're preaching, show up actually living the principles, and also facilitate and encourage group role play and experimentation of these new skills. It's important for them to kind of solidify these a little bit as habits before they're done with the group, or at least be able to practice them so they have them. Assist members in clarifying and creating SMART goals, so that includes asking follow-up questions and making sure that they are actually SMART goals. Collect data and track member progress, especially through the group ORS and SRS, as well as homework achievements. And with achievements, you want to give all of them special recognition, positive reinforcement, super important in this group. Provide member feedback, and prepare clients for initial and final group terminations. And this is a really important step, especially to CBT group leaders. We'll be discussing termination and preparing members for that way ahead of time. For group member roles, the main role of each member is a collaborative, active, accountable participant. All facilitator roles here could be helpful. Potential issues with the avoiding hindering aspects of roles I saw were in suppressive sociable roles, which could interfere with necessary rehearsal and process exercises, as well as avoiding hindering structural and divergent roles, which could threaten the sense of safety, which is really important because the members we're going to be working with already have anxiety, depression, trauma, stress, and so keeping safety is of the utmost importance, as well as maintaining maximum levels of confidentiality, so letting them know, of course, the limitations to that in a group setting, though also consistently affirming that need to keep things as confidential as possible and discussing those issues as they come up. That way members do feel safe to share and experiment on new behaviors. And that's by maintaining the group sense of safety, especially in a group dealing with members experiencing such symptoms is of the utmost importance. And so you have to be really directive as a leader and aware of what's happening in the group to be able to stop attacks and other things that could possibly come up, as well as to be cognizant of reactions to unexpected triggers. I mean, given the group collective combination of symptoms, you can definitely expect that triggers will end up happening. Also, ethical consideration for this type of group is ensuring that techniques remain within an evidence-based structure. So making sure that worksheets and stuff have already been tested and that they have proven to be effective. So other possibilities for this group would be to add a spiritual component, like say it's held in school like Western Seminary, other faith-based colleges. Just being able to add that component would, as we know, I mean, it's another aspect of who we are. So another would be to develop this as part of a group counseling program curriculum, or it could be obtained for group counseling attendance credit, or to provide group counseling internship opportunities. Another thing that I read was how combining group with the individualized support is really effective. It's actually the most effective. And so you could increase support here even further by having facilitators or mentors available after sessions, or possibly by phone for those who would like more assistance in goal setting or just need that individualized support. And that's where having it set up like in a college with or as part of a counseling internship opportunity, having those internships on site and available for help would be great, or even having past members come back to be mentors. I mean, these are all options that you could do. And that's it for me. And so here's some references on the pictures, and please do look in my handout for the rest of my references on information. This is so incredibly late. I appreciate you taking this